This show is supported by viewers like you. Donate now to receive special early access.
Epic Rap Battles of History! That's right, Epic Rap Battles of History, patron saints of reaction channels everywhere. ERB has been around for so long that you could cut it in half and trace the growth of both YouTube and internet comedy over the last decade, like rings on a tree. Spearheaded by Nice Peter Shukoff and Epic Lloyd Alquist, Epic Rap Battles of History has a very simple premise. Take two famous historical figures or fictional characters and have them spit hot fire at one another. Fans decide on the winner in the comments section and help suggest new potential rap battles in the future. I am a big fan of this series, and since Lloyd and Peter are busy plugging away at the 7th season, I thought I'd take some time to make a top 10 list of the best rap battles from seasons 1 through 6. It took me a while to nail down solid criteria for my picks, but here's what I ultimately settled on. Number 1, only 2 rappers. In the later seasons, the ERB team started piling rappers on top of one another in big group battles, or having someone interrupt an existing battle. And while a lot of these instances are fun, it does make it more difficult determining a winner. So for the purposes of this list, it's gonna be 1v1. Number 2, either both rappers have to be real people, or they both have to be fictional characters. No mixing or matching. There are plenty of battles where they put a real historical figure against a fictional character. And while there's nothing wrong with that, it does kind of undercut things when someone can say, well, I'm real and you're not, so f*** you.
I'm real! You'll find me making vacancies in brothels, while you only exist inside the pages of a novel.
The rest of my criteria is pretty basic stuff. I'll be judging individual battles on the quality of the lyrics, the quality of the beat, the overall quality of the production design, how well the actors portray their characters, and most importantly, how evenly matched the combatants are. There are more than a few battles that have a clear bias towards one rapper over the other. In any case, I decided to pick the battles where both rappers were good enough where you could flip a coin and be satisfied with whoever it landed on. With that out of the way, let's get started. Here are the top 10 epic rap battles of history, seasons 1 through 6. Number 10, Stephen Hawking versus Albert Einstein. Season 1 of ERB was a rougher start to the series than I think most people remember, featuring off-the-wall battles like Genghis Khan versus the Easter Bunny or Kim Jong-il versus Hulk Hogan. But this battle was an early classic, and I think it set a clever precedent for the ones that came after it. Auto-tuning Stephen Hawking's voice box was an inspired choice, and I love how both he and Einstein have legitimate scientific references in their rhymes, something that'd be expanded on in later battles like Isaac Newton versus Bill Nye or Oppenheimer versus Thanos.
I'm as dope as 2 rappers, you better be scared, cause that means Albert E equals MC squared. I'll be stretching out the rhyme like gravity stretches time when you try to put your little pea brain against this kind of mind. You can't destroy matter or me, for serious, ripping holes in you bigger than the hole in your black hole theory was. And while it's true that my work is based on you, I'm a supercomputer, you're like a TI-82. Ooh.
Number 9, Michael Jackson versus Elvis Presley. This premiered early in the 2nd season, and you could definitely tell that the crew had kicked things up a notch. While both Michael and Elvis get 2 verses each, they shake things up by including different versions of the artists involved at different points in their lives. Bentley Green portrays young Michael in the first verse, while Nice Peter portrays the older Michael for the 2nd verse. And Epic Lloyd gets to portray both the classic Elvis and the fat Elvis from his Vegas years. Even bearing that in mind, it's impressive to see how much these two can match each other blow for blow.
I can tell you're angry, but I can't comprehend it. I stole from black culture. Why are you offended?
How you gonna talk about the birds and bees when you met your own wife when she was only 14 and you made $1? She came to me. I took her to my Neverland ranch to eat.
You're a creeper, dude. You like to grab your own winger. I don't let you marry my daughter because I knew you'd never bang her.
For my part, I'd say Bentley is the real star of this battle. He comes in with a lot of energy and charisma, and the flow they wrote for him is extremely unique. Number 8, Skrillex versus Mozart. This battle shows how far good production value can go. Look, nobody is gonna say that Skrillex is a better musician than Mozart. Skrillex himself wouldn't even say that.
But to me, what makes this battle so fun is how expressive the production is.
I can't really explain it, but Skrillex's half somehow manages to perfectly visualize how it feels to listen to dubstep.
Attack, you decay, can't sustain my releases. Sidechain, wolf game, bang you to pieces. I'm a self-made man, you're a slave to your papa. I'm a rock star, mix it with the bass and drop ya.
Meanwhile, Mozart's portion isn't as visually interesting, but Nice Peter manages to come back with some pretty epic burns. You can tell that music geeks were thrilled by references like these.
Go piano to fortissimo. That means soft to very, very loud. Cause I'm guessing that you didn't know. Why don't you put down your
were no hard feelings, because Skrillex himself opted to show up when Lloyd and Peter performed this song live. One of the few celebrity cosigns on the series.
Global, my stripes are Chernobyl. Kids explode and get mobile. No one even knows.
Number 7. Goku vs. Superman. Ah yes, the matchup that the internet won't shut the fuck up about. We've already had a death battle for this, so why not a rap battle? My favorite part of the showdown is the rhythm. Ray William Johnson plays Goku, and the bars that he trades with Lloyd have a very specific rapid-fire flow. Very fitting for both of their characters.
You're primitive and limited. You live in a village of idiots. Step in metropolis, so step a character.
Defeat me with heat beams, you're crazy. Cause I'm a Super Saiyan, you're a flying Miss Daisy. Can't float to Son Goku, I Kaio can't get it done.
As a result of the pacing, though, this does feel like one of the shorter battles. But they cram a lot in with the time they have. We even get the Soulja Boy reference that we didn't know we needed.
Look at those panties. You got that camel. I'll report to Lois Lane and Superman at
And not to mention, this has one of the most brutal final lines in any rap battle.
There's only one way that this battle's gonna end. One more Superman who's never gonna walk again.
Number 6. Muhammad Ali versus Michael Jordan. You know you're doing something right when you get one of the best comedy duos of the decade to appear on your goofy little internet show. Actually, this is the second time Key and Peele appeared on epic rap battles of history. The first time was Gandhi versus Martin Luther King. I didn't pick that one, however, for 2 reasons. 1, Peele does a much better impression and has much better rhymes.
The king of civil rights from the city to suburbia. No shoes, no shirt, but I'm still gonna serve.
And 2, well look, Keegan-Michael Key is many things, but Indian isn't one of them, so I have mixed feelings about him playing Gandhi.
You want to battle with? See who's a better pacifist? I fought the caste system, but you still cannot touch this.
For Key's part, his Michael Jordan is much, much better. It helps that he already kind of looks like him and just had to deepen his voice a bit to sound like him.
I choke a dope with his own jump rope. You get smoked when I flow. You Kentucky Fried Joe used to float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Now you double dribble balls that nobody can see.
That said, I think Peele steals the show once again. His Ali is spot on, and frankly, I think he gets the much better lines. Considering how witty Muhammad Ali was in real life, I could imagine the man himself saying some of these things.
Ooh, here comes Jordan, big tongue wobbling, flying through the air like a big dumb goblin. You're the only bull that's uglier than Rodman. Messing with me is gambling. You got a problem.
Not bad, but can we piss off some millennials on your way out the door?
I leave you like Liston, flat on your ass. You need to bounce back to North Carolina, kid, cause your rapping sucks more than Space Jam did.
That'll do it, thank you. Number 5, Edgar Allan Poe versus Stephen King. On a technical level, George Watsky is probably one of the most skilled rappers in the ERB stable. And one thing I always give him credit for is his willingness to experiment with different rhyme schemes and patterns. Though that's not to say every experiment is successful. Watsky's first battle was Shakespeare versus Dr. Seuss, and he tried to rap in iambic pentameter, the same meter that a lot of Shakespeare's poems were written in. This was meant to complement Dr. Seuss's rhyme schemes, which normally use anapestic tetrameter.
Would I, could I, on a boat. Read any of the boring ass plays you
The problem is that this type of rhyme scheme is much more suited for rap. Iambic pentameter, not so much.
I have been iambic on that assy bastard. My rhyme's a classic. Your crap is drafted by kindergarten high on acid.
Also, this battle just kind of falls apart after things 1 and 2 were introduced, so yeah, a couple of things didn't work out here.
Ah! Get him away!
For his performance as Poe, however, Watsky uses trochaic octameter, 8 beats per line, alternating stress on the syllables. The same pattern that Edgar Allan Poe used for The Raven. This works much, much better for hip-hop.
Once upon a midnight dreary, as I spit this weak and weary, I will choke this joker with a trochee till his cheeks are teary.
And after all that, he still finds time for another one of his signature motor mouth verses.
Even you pretend to do it, I've been really living through it. Misery and poverty and family woes. I see through you like pantyhose. Do a Chappelle and Simpson cameos.
Stephen King is no slouch, though. Zach Sherwin does a spot-on impression, and his rhymes end up being more workmanlike but no less verbose. Remember, Stephen King is one of the most prolific horror authors of all time, something that he doesn't hesitate to rub in Poe's face. So while his words aren't as flashy, he also never runs out of them.
Pouty little poet with an opiate affliction. I'm a workaholic with affection, addiction. Make an educator reader shivery and jittery. Feel that rage and misery.
That said, this battle made its way to the real Stephen King, and he personally said that Poe outdid him here. So yeah, looks like the winner of this battle was decided for us. Number 4, J.R.R. Tolkien versus George R.R. Martin. This was the first battle of Season 5, and the ERB crew decided to come out swinging with one of their biggest undertakings yet. Admittedly, stock in Game of Thrones has kind of plummeted since this video first dropped, but I'd still like to place it on the list for ambition alone. The production values on this battle are top-notch, with a lot of fancy CG graphics and a bunch of supporting actors. If there's one thing Tolkien and Martin have in common, it's that they craft epics. So, that's how this battle feels. Epic. But they still take the time to sneak in little details, like the specific model of computer that George R.R. Martin writes all his books on, or old TV shows he wrote before he turned to literature.
I conscientiously object to what you're doing on these beasts. I'll cut you like my teeth on Beauty and the Beast. You went too deep, Professor Tweed Pants. We don't need the backstory on every fucking tree branch.
Look at this part. Martin stabs Jon Snow, then right at the end of his first verse, you see him come back to life. This battle dropped just before Season 6 of Game of Thrones began. Even if it was just a background joke, the crew had a 50-50 chance that Jon Snow was going to come back to life or not. Looks like somebody called heads. And since both Tolkien and Martin are giants of fantasy literature, it makes sense that they'd spend most of the battle critiquing each other's work. This is the book club I never knew I needed.
All your bad guys die, your good guys survive. We can tell what's gonna happen a page and age 5.
We all know the world is full of chance and anarchy. So yes, it's true to life for characters that die randomly. But newsflash, the genre's called fantasy. It's meant to be unrealistic, you myopic manatee.
But while Martin gets in some good jabs, I gotta give this battle to Tolkien. I mean, he summoned Led Zeppelin. Argument over. Number 3. Theodore Roosevelt versus Winston Churchill. This was the last proper battle of Season 5 before Lloyd and Peter decided to take a hiatus.
I'm a patient man, but sometimes you need to back on my life, man. The same
sounds
shit
like
that I
they
was
needed
dealing
it.
with at the
Teddy Roosevelt had long served as the unofficial mascot of ERB, so since it might be a while till the next battle, they decided to give him his time in the spotlight. And Lloyd goes for all the glorious hamminess you could ask for.
I'm into fitness, digging ditches through an isthmus, rough riding down a Cuba line. What's up, bitches?
The best thing I can say about Roosevelt in this battle is that he does not give a fuck. Teddy studied boxing in real life, and that's what his lines feel like. Just haymakers right to the solar plexus.
My parents died when they were young and it was morbid, but at least they didn't ditch me when they were alive like yours did.
As for Churchill, we have Dan Bull returning to the show after first appearing in Jack the Ripper vs. Hannibal Lecter. The real Churchill was well known for his sharp tongue and wit, so it's cool to see phrases that he said in real life worked into the lyrics.
I might be battling you even though I'm toasted, but tomorrow I'll be sober and you'll still be roasted. They put your fat head on a mountain to save face, but if Rushmore was a band, then you'd play bass.
I don't need this, good man. I'm going to form my own band and my own political party while we're at it. Wait, we've already lost? Number 2, Deadpool versus Boba Fett. This was a bonus panel that premiered in between seasons 4 and 5, but to me, it easily stands among the best. While Lloyd and Peter provide the voices for Deadpool and Boba Fett respectively, the actual guys in the suits were Robert Hoffman and Ivan Velez, but both managed to embody their respective characters perfectly. Deadpool starts breaking the fourth wall by the end of his second line, which provides a great contrast with Boba Fett's more deliberate, calculated physical menace. You know, before the breakdancing starts. But aside from both characters being hyper-violent bounty hunters, they have other things in common. Deadpool mocks him for just being a clone of his dad, but to Boba, Deadpool is something worse. He's a ripoff.
Bitch, who you calling clone? You're a Deathstroke ripoff. You sold Spider-Man's eyes and Snake Eyes is weapon. You got Wolverine's powers, man, your comic sloppy second.
But what's really funny is that, through Deadpool, ERB mocks themselves as much as they do the characters. Deadpool has one line about how Boba has 2 different voices and only 5 lines in the trilogy.
Presenting the most overrated character anyone ever saw with 5 lines in the trilogy, and one of them was...
That wasn't just a Star Wars reference. Boba Fett appeared in the final part of the Vader vs. Hitler trilogy voiced by Ray William Johnson. And what happens after he gets 5 lines out?
I'm sick, hell no!
Speaking of which, I know the Vader vs. Hitler trilogy is an ERB classic, but it didn't fit my criteria, so none of the parts made it on the list. But it does have perhaps the greatest moment in the history of fiction, where Darth Vader calls Adolf Hitler a bitch.
You bitch!
And before we get to number 1, let's look at some honorable mentions. James Bond versus Austin Powers. This was the battle where the ERB crew got an assistant editor, and it shows, because the visuals serve as great tributes to both characters' respective franchises. James Bond's flow is devastatingly sharp, and Nice Peter does a great impersonation of Mike Myers. If it weren't for Sean Connery's Bond stealing everybody's thunder, this would have been an easy pick. But as it is, his appearance just kinda mucks up the back half of this battle.
Could I get back in my rap, please? Rap these, you velvety hack!
Gordon Ramsay versus Julia Child. This is another one where the visuals and set design are very impressive. The food shown during the intro was all cooked by the ERB staff, and it's really cool to see the set moving into place around Gordon Ramsay as he starts rapping. And while Mamrie Hart doesn't really look like Julia Child, she matches her voice and mannerisms perfectly.
You scream at women, but the fits that you're pitching make you the pissiest bitch in the kitchen.
Tony Hawk versus Wayne Gretzky. This one came really close to making it on the list. The camera movement is super creative, and both rappers rappers have very impressive flow. But the reason it didn't make it on is because there's a clear victor by the end. It's no contest. Gretzky absolutely smoked Tony Hawk with his final verse.
Disputed, unrefuted. G-O-A-T. You've been going downhill since Pro Skater 3.
Number 1. Joker versus Pennywise. This battle feels like the culmination of all the years of experience Lloyd and Peter have built up. The costumes and makeup make them dead ringers for their characters and give them plenty of license to go over the top. Peter manages to do a great Mark Hamill impression, probably the one Joker everyone could agree on for something like this, and Lloyd manages to sound exactly like Bill Skarsgård.
My first appearance, the bat was supposed to slay me, but I can't be killed. That's why they cast a phoenix to play me.
Why so serious? You're supposed to be the man who laughs, but those jokes are like your new movie. Mostly really sad, babe.
And the rhymes, vicious, even towards their own creators.
When I flow, I go Mark Ham with ill zingers. I steal the show like Bob Kane stole from Bill Fick.
We have so much fun together, but no one's dying to play with Joker.
Except for maybe Heath Ledger.
As for the visuals, Joker gets some surprisingly detailed CG, making it look like he's leaping out of a comic page, while Pennywise setup looks more like a school play. The CG artists even get to flex their muscles a little bit when Pennywise reveals the deadlights. Did you ever think you'd see production values like this in a YouTube video? I think that's why I still have a soft spot for ERB after all these years. They really upped the game when it came to online content. ERB showed that 2-minute viral clips could have production values, performances, and fan outreach on par with higher budgeted work that you'd normally see on TV or movies. They could bring in talented people both in front of and behind the camera and have them make something special. They haven't always batted 1,000, but they kept plugging away, kept improving, and after all this time, they're still going strong. I can't help but respect that. Who won? You guys did. Who's next? You decide. Thanks for watching.